I touched the cat and felt no breath. Then her claws pinched my sleeve like a hand begging not to let go. The sound that followed was a dry gasp, the kind a chest makes when it is deciding whether to live. My truck ticked as it cooled on the canyon rim. Below me, the cougar lay twisted on a stone shelf, ribs fluttering like a bird trapped under a shirt. I had come here to patch a fence. Instead, I was counting heartbeats with a wild animal that could end me in one swipe if she chose to wake angry. Yesterday, the wind knocked down a cottonwood and dropped it across my pasture. I followed the damage to the edge of the bluff and saw the slide where something heavy had fallen. Today, I came with wire and T-posts, climbed the switchback trail, and heard a thud like a sack of grain hitting rock. I looked over the lip and saw her. Tan, long, beautiful even in ruin. The distance to the shelf was not far, yet far enough to break a shoulder and knock the air out of a chest. I eased down the goat path. She watched me through half-closed eyes, not fighting, not surrendering, simply trying to exist through the next breath. I put my palm at her ribs. The rise was thin. I spoke the way I do to nervous cows. Easy now. Stay with me. Her paw lifted and caught my sleeve, not slashing, only holding. That grip stopped my hands from shaking. I called the clinic. Emily answered between other calls. Her voice was steady. Bring her if you can. She cannot be admitted without a ranger. You know that. Try to keep her warm. Check the gums. Tell me about the pupils. I told her what I saw. One more thing, she said, almost whispering it. If the nipples are swollen, you are not saving one life. You might be saving 3. I checked. She was a mother. Somewhere out there were kittens waiting for milk that would not come if their mother died on this shelf. I swore, then prayed, then started moving. The only help nearby was my neighbor. Linda pulled up with a blanket and the stubborn will of someone who has lifted 100 bales in one summer. We slid the blanket under the cat using a pitchfork like a lever. On 3 we lifted. The weight made my knees talk. The cougar groaned, not a threat, more like a person waking with a broken rib. At the barn we cleared a pen, laid her on straw, darkened the lights. I could hear the town in my head already. He dragged a lion home. He is crazy. He will get someone hurt. The phone buzzed again. Emily was on the way with supplies she was not supposed to use off-site. The ranger named Josh was stuck on a brush fire line at the far end of the district. He said to keep everyone away and to expect smoke drifting down the canyon by evening. Emily arrived with a small oxygen tank and the kind of focus that makes a room quiet. She knelt, felt along the spine, checked the eyes with her phone light, then looked at me. We have a window. I can stabilize her. But those kittens will not last without her. If we do this, we go all the way. I nodded because there was no halfway here. We started with warmth and oxygen. I held the mask. Emily pushed fluids through a catheter, slow as patience. The cat's chest rose a little more, then faltered. For one slow minute she stopped. Emily met my eyes. Compressions, she said. 2 fingers, gentle, keep a rhythm. I did what she asked. The barn smelled like hay and metal. Somewhere a calf protested a fly. Then I felt a new push under my hands. The rib cage moved on its own. Emily smiled the way you do when a storm misses your roof by a yard. Josh rolled in as the sun bent low. He looked tired and official at the same time. He took in the scene and spoke plain. You two just bought yourselves a pile of paperwork. Also, the ridge is burning. If the wind shifts, this place chokes in smoke. Find the kittens now, or they will not see morning. He gave us a thermal viewer and a small radio. Sister, he said to Emily, you guide him. Farmer, he said to me, you carry and you listen. We started up the trail at dusk. The canyon air was warming from the fire somewhere to the west. Ash fell like quiet snow. The viewer lit the rocks with ghost heat. Twice we found nothing but pack rats. Then, near the slide, Emily froze and tilted her head. Hear that? She said. I heard water ticking through limestone, a night bird, and something else, thin as a whistle through teeth. We crawled toward it. The crack in the rock was narrow, a mailbox slot. Inside was a bundle of fear with ears too big for its face. Another shape pressed behind it. Linda arrived without being asked, roped to an oak, lowering a flashlight and a cloth bag. I slid my arm into the stone like a letter carrier and reached until my shoulder hurt. The first kitten was loose sand and bones. I pulled him into Emily's hands. The second refused. He latched onto rock with needles for claws and yelled like he owned the canyon. Linda laughed even now. That one is yours, Mark. I would carry him home in my shirt if it would help. I breathed and tried again. The little beast let go only when I wrapped his belly and pushed his paws gently forward. We tucked them both into the bag against a warm bottle that Emily had brought like she had planned this all her life. Back at the barn, the mother was still, breathing on her own now, pupils steady. I placed a kitten at her chest. Nothing. Emily worked a warm compress along the belly. The kitten tried to nurse and failed, sliding off as if forgetting what to do. It felt like standing in church while the prayer you need refuses to come out. Then the mother twitched an ear. She smelled the air around my wrist, found her child by scent alone, and lifted her head the width of a finger. The kitten latched. When his mouth worked, the second kitten found a spot of its own. Emily leaned back against a post in a way I will remember for the rest of my life. Word got out anyway. Linda's husband parked at the gate. 2 pickups idled on the county road. People love a miracle until it sleeps 2 doors down. Josh talked them down with the same tone he would use on a nervous horse. Temporary care, he said. Strict supervision. The animals will be released when strong. No one here is keeping pets. By morning, the trucks were gone. In their place were 3 casseroles on my porch because fear and kindness often ride in the same truck in small towns. The next week was steady work. Emily came twice a day. Josh checked once at dawn and once after dark. The kittens grew loud. The mother took water from a bowl the way a cat does when she is choosing to live. Linda swept the barn aisle and claimed it kept the dust down, though I knew she liked to stand near the pen and whisper to the little wild family when no one looked. A month later, on a cool morning that smelled like damp cedar, we loaded them into a crate on the back of Josh's truck. The burn had spared a bend of the canyon where the rock made its own weather. The release was brief and quiet. The mother stepped out, turned once, and went uphill with both youngsters bouncing like dropped tennis balls. They disappeared between junipers. The only sound left was a wren cussing at us for using her fence post. I thought that was the end. It would have been a fine end. But life likes a coda. Late in fall, I walked out to fetch wood. Frost on the porch rail, breath like smoke. In the dust by the steps, I saw 4 prints. 2 large, 2 small. They circled the yard and stopped by the truck where the blanket still rode behind the seat. At the edge of the yard, near the floodlight, I caught a shape in the corner of my eye and turned. The cougar stood there in the empty field, tall and full and alive. The youngsters waited behind her, half the size, all legs. She held still while I did the same. No hunger in her posture, no demand, only a simple presence, like a neighbor pausing on a walk. I lifted my hand the way I had on the stone shelf that first day. "Stay with me," I said again, though this time it was not a plea. It was thanks. She blinked, stepped back, and the 3 of them flowed into the dark the way water finds its own bed. In the morning, the prints were rimmed with frost. I left them untouched and started a pot of coffee and a prayer that barely needed words. I am a farmer. I fix fences and coax hay out of stingy ground. That summer, I learned something simple enough to write on a feed sack and hang on the wall. Mercy is work you do with your hands first, and your heart follows. And sometimes the wild will circle back when it is ready, not to take, just to say that you did not hold on in vain.